Trash. Not only is it a problem down here on Earth, but it's also an unwelcome form of pollution up in the cosmos. It's known as space debris, and in this video we'll discover why it's there and what we can do about it. Welcome back to 26 Dimensions. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss more space exploration and astrophysics videos here on YouTube. There are at least 15,000 classified man-made objects currently orbiting close to Earth, and many more thousands of unclassified waste pieces. Across the entire history of space exploration, more than 5,000 satellites have been placed into orbit. About 80% of these satellites are now dead or defunct. In addition to whole satellites, there is an assortment of waste rocket debris, such as fastening and separation rings, exhausted fuel tanks, broken heat shields, and even fragments of actual spacecraft. On the smaller end of the spectrum, the upper atmosphere and low Earth orbit is absolutely littered with powders and polluting materials such as solid exhaust particles from rocket boosters, flakes of paint that have been torn off ascending rockets, and miscellaneous metal and ceramic parts. Overall, there are close to 150,000 tiny fragments of debris smaller than 2/5 of an inch. Let's take a moment to calculate the current severity of space debris using known statistics. Now, overall there are about 35,000 pieces of space junk greater than 10 centimeters in length, and that's sticking with the conservative estimate. There's almost definitely more. We'll also assume that the width of every piece is also 10 centimeters, so that's a surface area of 10 by 10 centimeters or 0.01 meters squared. Given that there are 35,000 of such pieces, this kind of junk occupies a total area of 350 square meters. That's a really tiny percentage of Earth's total surface area, which is approximately 500 million kilometers squared. But then you have to factor in the space debris of other sizes. For example, pieces between 1 and 10 centimeters across number close to 1 million in total. We should also recognize that their 500 million square kilometer surface area of Earth isn't even accurate, since only a fraction of that is occupied by spacecraft orbits. In some belts there are very few orbits, while at other places there are very frequented orbits. Plus, when a new spacecraft enters orbit, it'll be traveling quite a bit faster than the existing space debris in its way, which significantly increases its probability of colliding with a piece of junk while ascending or orbiting. In space, getting hit by something is really bad news, even for pretty tiny objects. Colliding bodies can cause tears and damage to a spacecraft and even harm external systems, puncturing through tanks or chipping glass at high speed. In the past few years, the European Space Agency has recorded over 500 notable collisions of space debris in Earth orbit. When these accidents happen, tiny fragments of waste are sprayed all over the place, flying at angles towards unsuspecting spacecraft miles away. In September last year, the International Space Station even had to conduct an emergency maneuver to avoid striking a piece of space waste. Space debris definitely isn't a significant problem right now, but it's sure to become one as the decades pass and we launch many more missions into orbit and beyond. Every single rocket ascent leaves some kind of debris in orbit or Earth's upper atmosphere, with many conventional launch vehicles depositing substantial parts of themselves in space. Now, of course, a lot of this debris falls back down to Earth and burns up in the atmosphere. But we don't only launch rockets to low Earth orbit. Most communication satellites are placed into geostationary orbits over 30,000 kilometers from Earth's surface. And up here, space is so thin that it'll take a satellite or waste part many hundreds or even thousands of years to lose its angular momentum and fall back to Earth. Effectively, this means that we're building up our own space dump bit by bit, which will inevitably need to be cleaned one day if future generations are to travel into space like us. Luckily, space agencies and engineering organizations all around the world are coming up with innovative ways to clean up our expanse of space and make orbit a safer place for future flights. Single-handedly, the new space garbage collection industry is pushing machine learning and satellite technology forwards. One example is the European Space Agency contracted ClearSpace 1 craft, which is planned to launch in 2025. Its goal is to clear a heavily trafficked region of space where many failed satellites have cluttered popular orbits, which has caused an increasing number of problems for new crafts trying to get a footing in space. What's so special about ClearSpace 1 is that it'll use the latest in machine learning technology to locate and collect recognized pieces of space debris. Its assignment is to find the Vespa upper stage from ESA's Vega rocket about 600 kilometers above Earth and collect it, preventing it from posing a threat to other active crafts. After grabbing the Vespa stage with a robotic arm, ClearSpace 1 will deorbit, dropping back into Earth's atmosphere where the waste will be burnt up. If the mission is successful, ClearSpace 1 will be a world or space first. Many other agencies and spacefaring corporations have also drawn up plans for garbage collection spacecraft in the past few years too. For example, the Japanese organization Astroscale, centered in Tokyo, is designing systems to collect and destroy space debris. A few years ago, they attempted to launch a small satellite called the IDEA OSG-1 into orbit. Unfortunately, it never made it, but if it had gotten into orbit, it would have measured microspace debris to acquire more accurate estimates for how bad pollution is in low Earth orbit. They're now working with JAXA to build a spacecraft to actively remove debris. We expect to see exactly what they have in mind by next year. If we continue funding this journey, space agencies will be able to deploy new craft for collecting and getting rid of space debris, keeping Earth orbit open for future spaceflights. It's only a matter of time before we begin launching robotic spacecraft that can clean up space junk. You've been watching 26 Dimensions, the space exploration and astrophysics channel here on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, you might like some of my other ones. Don't forget to subscribe to 26 Dimensions so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.